Denver 7 On Demand is brought to you by Ferguson and BAC Appliance Center, the best in bath, kitchen, and lighting for your home.
I'm Shannon Ogden with the latest from Denver 7. Let's get right to your first alert weather with Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson.
Shannon, we have some severe storms possible early tonight across the eastern plains from Denver out through the plains. By midnight, they'll be pretty much done as this cold front actually pushes in, brings us some slightly cooler air for tomorrow. We'll start with some low clouds early in the day Saturday. Clear skies on the other side of the front in western Colorado. Milder there, 61 for the low in Grand Junction. Front range numbers, we're going to start out low clouds and fog early in the day Saturday. Mostly cloudy by midday, but here comes that front again, and that's going to spark more strong storms over eastern Colorado Saturday afternoon. Scattered storms in the mountains, warm and dry out toward the Utah border with highs of 97 at Moab, 95 degrees at Grand Junction. That heat is going to get here, but it's going to take a couple of days, just in the 70s for Saturday over eastern Colorado with a good chance of storms. Sunday, fewer storms, but still some. And the same story for Monday with temperatures in the mid to upper 80s. And then the heat comes in. We'll be well into the 90s by later next week.
Thank you, Mike. Search crews are still looking for a jet skier who went missing on Jackson Lake State Park. The woman went missing after a crash yesterday. Now, multiple people had to be rescued. One rider was not found. Authorities are searching the area north of the boat ramp, and they're asking the public just to avoid that area since wakes can disrupt some of the scanning equipment. A man has died after being rescued from the Poudre River. 26-year-old Matthew Spates was one of 9 people pulled from the water yesterday. Rescue crews say they were rafting in a group, thrown off their tubes. Now, Spates was seriously hurt, flown to UC Health, and died early this morning. And a reminder tonight, conditions on the water right now are very dangerous, even for experienced rafters. Jefferson County has a tubing ban in place along Clear Creek. Tubing also is banned in Boulder Creek from confluence at the Boulder Falls to the eastern city limits. And that ban will stay in place until Monday. Search and rescue teams believe they have found the remains of 20-year-old Micah Tice. The Air Force Prep Academy cadet went missing on Longs Peak, last seen November 24th by other hikers. They say weather conditions were terrible. They say they urged him not to summit. Active search efforts began 3 days after that. The search was suspended December 4th because of bad conditions. And then yesterday, a search crew found items they think belong to him. His remains have been transferred to the coroner's office. Identity will be released after the autopsy. The juvenile driver who police say hit and killed a man outside the Gaylord Hotel has been charged. 23-year-old Levi Knowles died in that hit and run. His family says he jumped in front of other people to protect him from that oncoming car. And police say the 16-year-old driver took off from the scene, but his car was found abandoned nearby. Tonight, that driver is facing several charges, including vehicular homicide. An off-duty corrections officer has been charged in a deadly shooting last night in Aurora. Officers were called to the Greensview Apartments on East Alameda about 10 o'clock. A man was shot and then later died at the hospital. Scott Matthews Jr. has been charged with second-degree murder. He has also been suspended as this investigation continues. Well, thousands of people all over Colorado use hemp-based CBD products for everything, from chronic pain, even epilepsy. And despite being cannabis-based, it is touted as a product that's not going to show up on a drug screen. Now, Contact 7 investigative reporter Jace Larson investigates whether you can trust that claim.
By the end of next year, CBD product sales in the U.S. are expected to top $500 million. But with more people using them, well, that also means more risk to job seekers.
If you have been using them, you need to stop using them before you decide that you want to try to come here to be a truck driver.
At the U.S. truck driving school just south of Colorado Springs, testing is constant in the classroom, on the training course, and on the road. But there is only one test that is graded pass or fail: the drug test.
We have had positive drug screens come back for the CBD oils and creams.
The effective ingredients in cannabis with no psychotropic effects can relieve a whole range of ailments and are considered by many as an alternative to prescriptions and opioids. It's also touted as being undetectable in drug screenings.
They had been using a cream or something, and we weren't for sure if it was going to show up or not, but it did.
It happened to Jason Lane.
I've never had a drug in my life, no cigarettes, no alcohol, nothing.
But chronic back pain led him to give CBD a try. At the time, he was on his way to earning a commercial driver's license and become a truck driver.
We were guaranteed it had no THC. Well, with a CDL, you get a urinalysis. So he went in for his urinalysis and he popped hot. We were shocked.
Here I am, I've never done a drug in my life. Now I'm on record as if I had done a drug.
The experience prompted Lane and his wife to send their CBD product in for testing.
Out of 6 manufacturers of 6 different products, every one of them popped hot on THC.
The label said guaranteed not to test positive for marijuana, yet each one did. It prompted the couple to start their own companies, one being Survive by Nature in Pueblo, with specific parameters to ensure that each product has only what it says.
The only way to really dose anything would be to molecule count the cannabinoids.
They say lack of regulation in both the CBD and testing industries mean that truck drivers and others required to submit to a drug screening cannot be sure that CBDs won't lead to a positive test. Russian roulette, they say, for those using CBD products using up to a drug test.
You're going to end up with back problems eventually or something, you know, and something like that might be able to help.
All I wanted to do was relieve the pain in my neck and not take a drug.
This is an option for them that can make a difference. And because of the lack of regulation in the drug testing and the accuracy, they can't take it.
The amount of THC that it takes to register a positive result on a drug test is really pretty small. And one of the problems with a positive result is that it doesn't tell an employer how much of the drug is in your system, how often it's been used, or how recently. Still, a positive test is enough to convince many employers to move right on to the next applicant. Jace Larson, Denver 7.
Very interesting. Tonight we're hearing from a woman who was rescued from her burning home in Montbello in Denver. Fireworks started last night, and those fireworks started this fire that's quickly burned out of control. 70-year-old Catherine Davis was inside. When her neighbors heard her screaming, they rushed in to save her.
I want to thank the people who got me out and helped me, because I might have got burned up in there if it hadn't been.
That fire caused serious damage to a car in the driveway and to the outside of the house. And Davis says she's still trying to come to terms with what happened here and hopes whoever launched those fireworks is held responsible. We have a Contact 7 consumer alert for you. A Denver man says he was swindled out of tens of thousands of dollars by a scam call about his Social Security number. Denver 7's Megan Lopez shows us why this man's story was so believable.
By now, we've all gotten a few of those fraudulent phone calls, sometimes even several or up to a dozen a day. The Federal Trade Commission says the number of complaints it's receiving about these scam calls has reached an all-time high, and that since 2014, more than $450 million has been lost to scammers. And believe it or not, these calls are getting more sophisticated. If you've ever met Richard Swanton, then you know
it was just another day at the office.
He's a hard worker.
My dad told me once, learn how to do something and stick with it. So.
For the past 43 years, Richard has installed, repaired, and replaced air conditioners, a business his hard-earned savings helped create. But last month, a series of phone calls nearly destroyed everything he's worked for.
And I get this call from somebody saying, I'm the Social Security Administration, and your Social Security number has been suspended.
He didn't believe it, so he hung up. But then another person called, and it seemed credible because
they knew everything about me. They had my last 4 numbers of my Social Security and the last 3 numbers of my bank account.
The calls went on for days and involved at least 4 people in an intricate scam.
They made me go to the bank, get a bank transfer.
In the end, Richard lost out on nearly $90,000.
There was a lot. Almost all the money I had. That's my life savings.
But this Social Security scam isn't the only one going around.
I got a phone call and they asked for me by name.
Kathy Martinez received a call last month from someone claiming to be from her bank and saying there were fraudulent charges on her card. It seemed credible.
Because the number he's calling from is the same number as my bank.
The caller even threatened to close her account.
He seemed legitimate in the beginning.
What they didn't know is that Kathy works for a customer service call center herself and knows better.
There's a lot of rules and laws in place. You have to identify yourself.
But even she was almost duped.
It's easy to fall for this stuff.
In In recent years, there's been a sharp rise in these calls. Colorado and other states are trying to get a handle on it with lawsuits and rule changes, but for now, Kathy and Richard are using their stories to warn people about how clever these scammers are getting.
I definitely have my radar up.
What I would do if I could do it over, I would hang up and I wouldn't answer the phone.
Megan Lopez.
They would steal from their grandma.
Denver 7.
If you ever have anything you want the Contact 7 Investigates team to investigate, please call or text that number. You can also send us an email at contact7@thedenverchannel.com. And this has been your Denver 7 on-demand update. Thanks for checking us out. We'll have another one later for you. Also, download the Denver 7 app for breaking news and alerts. I'm Shannon Ogden.